Hey everybody, it's Rob. I'm back. We're going to do another Proving Grounds practice machine. This time we're doing a machine called Escape. It is a Linux box rated as hard, and yes, it was hard. This is a machine that I tried a couple of times, spent a few hours each time, and just kind of got a little further and then gave up. So you can see it overall, over the course of several months, I spent about 12 hours on this machine. So it lived up to the rating. So without further ado, you can see I am on Offsec's VPN, and I do have Escape spun up, and here's the IP address. Now, it does mention in the lab notes that SNMP is installed on this machine. So I did two different Nmap scans, the first of which was service version detection T4 aggressive on all ports, and what came back was 22, 80, and 8080. The second Nmap scan I did was for UDP, and I did a UDP scan T4 aggressive on ports 1 to 200 because UDP scans are ridiculously slow. So if you did all 65,000 ports, it would probably take God knows how long. So I just limited it to the top 200 ports, and it probably still took about, 289 seconds. So you can see really all we care about here is SNMP on 161. So what I started with on this machine was the websites. So if you go to 80, it's a picture of a jail cell. And if you look at the source, pretty simple. There's nothing to it. Now I did some go busting on 80 and nothing really came back. So 80 is kind of a bust. 8080 is the same exact thing, but when I did go busting on it, I did get something back. I got a dev directory. So what I ended up doing was going to that dev directory, and it comes up with this developer area, proceed with caution, and it says, as of right now, we are only accepting GIF files. Now, I did a bunch of testing with this and ultimately figured out what the site was using to determine if a file was GIF or GIF, however you decide that you pronounce it. So what I did was I uploaded files with the magic byte, then I uploaded files with different file extensions. There's a bunch of stuff that you can do. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to use Burp Suite. There's typically three things that I would focus on when it comes to this. So what we're going to do is we're going to fire up Burp Suite. Okay, now that we have Burp Suite fired up, before we start to do anything, I want to show you that I have Pentest Monkey's PHP reverse shell here. And let me just make sure my IP address is good, 242, and the port is good. You can see up at the top here, I added the GIF 89 or GIF 89A semicolon. So sometimes you can trick websites into allowing you to upload a file that's not a GIF by using, I guess this is like the magic byte or the file header. So that's what we're going to start with, okay? So that's the first test that we're going to do. So I'm going to just close this for now. What we're going to do is we're going to go to the proxy, we're going to turn intercept on, and then we need to go back to Firefox and turn on the Burp Suite. Okay? So now that we have Burp Suite turned on, we're going to browse and look for our PHP shell, which is right here. We're going to open and we're going to click upload. Now Burp Suite should capture this. We're going to send this to repeater. Okay, so if we go to repeater, you can see that we have the GIF 89A semicolon here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this and see what the website does. Okay, if we scroll down, it says, sorry, GIF only. So we know it's not this that's affecting that. So the next thing we can do is we can try and manipulate the file extension. Let's put GIF here, and let's send it over. Sorry, GIF only. Okay, So now there's really only one other thing that you can do here that I know of. Well, first I'm going to put my PHP extension back on here. Is this content type. Right now it's application X PHP. What we can do here is we can back this up and we can put image /GIF. Now let's send it over. You can see we have the file extension is back to PHP and we know this is irrelevant. So I'm going to click send. And it says uploaded. So that's good. So we know that it's the content type that this website is using to filter whether or not a file is a GIF. So the way that I would do this is I'd go back to the proxy. I'd go to my original request here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify it here so that when I send it, I can go back to the website and it should be uploaded. So we're going to go image /GIF. And before we do anything else, I'm going to start a listener on port 80. So netcat NLVP on 80. We're going to go back to Burp Suite. We've changed our content type to image /GIF, and then we're going to forward it. And then we're going to go back to our website and we can see file is valid and was successfully uploaded. And if we hover over that, we can see it's up on the site in the uploads directory. So now what you want to do is turn the Burp Suite off. And then you want to click on this uploaded. And we can see that it's kind of hung up. So hopefully we have a shell at this point. And we do. Let's just see which Python. I don't think Python's on here. No. So this is where I struggled a little bit, but ultimately the SNMP portion of this comes into play. Okay. So if we do normal Linux enumeration, history, not found, that's because we have this crappy shell. Let's see. I doubt we'll be able to do sudo tac-l. Not found. I mean, this shell is absolutely wrecked, and Python is not on here. I think there's other ways that you can get a better shell, but I'm not 100% sure. Let's see if we could just do bin bash I. No job control still, so we won't be able to do sudo. That host name should give us a big hint, though. That does not look like a normal host name. So let's see what directory we're in. We're in the root directory, so let's do an lsail. We're definitely in a Docker container. Okay. So let's see if we can figure out what's going on here. Let's go into opt. Well, let's see if there's anything at home first. I doubt it. Nothing at home. So let's go to, whenever I run across these things where I can't figure out what to do, I always go back to the root directory and just start enumerating from there. So cd opt. There's nothing in there. cd var ls cd dub. Let's see if there's anything in here. Oh, we have the local.txt. So let's cat local.txt. And there's the user flag. Now, let's see if there's anything in HTML. There's the jail.jpg. Not really. Let's do an ls. AIL. No, nothing. So I think what I ended up doing, I went to the Etsy folder and looked for SNMP. Not there. Let's look for files that have SNMP in the name. Copy. Okay, these probably can ignore all these. This is interesting right here, varbackups.snmpd.conf. So that's something we're going to want to check out. I even ran linps on this thing and didn't find much. Okay, so let's take a look at this file here. Let's see if we can cat that out. Cat. Let's copy this, paste. All right, so this looks like some kind of SNMP configuration file. So there's a couple of things we might want to look for here. One is a community string. Access control. Here we go. Here's the community string. So that we're gonna want to take note of that. And then let's see what else is in here. Active monitoring, extending the agent, arbitrary extension commands. This could be interesting. Let's see what this says here. Extend test 1, bin hello. Oh, looks like we can execute commands. It says, note this last entry, temp.shtest. We have to look at this temp folder too. So this is the last entry requires a script.tmp.shtest to be created first, and then walk the. So if you're not familiar with SNMP, there are these things called MIBs, and there are tools where you can walk the MIBs. It looks like it's telling you to use ns extend config, ns extend output 1, and ns extend output 2. Note that the extend directive supersedes the previous execute and sh directives. Okay. So that means we can use the extend directive to execute code. And it says, if you note, like this line right here is super important. temp.shtest. So we need to go to the temp directory. Now that we have the tables that it's telling us to walk within the MIBs, and it's given us a community string, which we've noted. So let's go to temp, cd tmp lsail. And it looks like there's not much here other than you would expect to see in a temp directory. Because this is a Docker container, let's look at mount. Oh yeah, here we go. So dev sd1 is mounted on temp. Tempfs is mounted on dev. And what else? Tempfs. It looks like the temp folder could be something that the host and the container are sharing based on what I'm seeing here. So if you remember, it said to create that file shtest. So I think what we need to do is, because we can theoretically get command execution using that extend option with the SNMP, I think that we need to create a file called shtest and put it reverse shell in it. And then what we can do is go back to our machine and use a tool like SNMP walk or SNMP bulk walk or whatever, one of those tools to walk all the MIBs. Now, because there's some proprietary stuff with MIBs, they're typically not installed, but don't worry, I will show you how to do that. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to create that test file that it mentions that would execute the code. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to echo in a bash payloads all the things one-liner. Paste. So you can see I'm echoing bash execute the command, and then this is the payloads all the things one-liner, and we're creating the file shtest, and then we have to make it executable. Don't forget that. So we're going to hit enter, and then we're going to chmod plus x shtest. So we do an lsail. We now have shtest, and it is executable. Okay, so how to download all of the MIBs. You basically have to execute this command on your Kali Linux instance, which is sudo, make sure you use sudo apt install snmp mibs downloader. Okay. once those are all downloaded, then we'll be able to do something like SNMP bulk walk. We're going to need the version of SNMP, which is 2, and then we're going to need the community string, which we got from that file. And then we also need to use one of those tables that it indicated. So either NS extend output 1, NS extend output 2, and I can't remember what the third one was, but we'll just use NS extend output 1. All right, so we're going to go back to our machine here. We're going to create a listener for 1, 2, 3, 4 because that's what we used when we injected that reverse shell into the sh test file, just so we don't forget. Okay, and like I said, if you need to get the MIBs on your machine, this is the command you use. I'm not going to do it because I've already downloaded these. Sudo apt install snmb MIBs downloader. Okay. Now, once you download these, you need to go to cd etc snmp and then do an ls, and there should be an snmp.conf in here. You're going to want a nano snmp.conf. And what you want to do is when you get your file open for the first time, it's going to look like that. Okay? And if you read the instructions here, and when you download the MIBs downloader and you look up how to download that, a lot of them will tell you that you need to go to this file and change this. As the SNMP packages come without MIBs files due to licensing reason, which I mentioned, loading MIBs is disabled by default. If you add MIBs, you can re-enable loading them by commenting out the following line. So we want to comment out that line. Okay, now you should be good to go with a tool like SNMP bulk walk and be able to basically query all the MIBs on that machine. And then using the NS extend output 1 table, we should be able to trigger the reverse shell that we have in the temp folder on that machine. Okay, so I'm just going to exit out of here. We don't want to save. We can't save anyway. And the command that you need to walk the MIBs, you could use SNMP walk, but I'm just using SNMP bulk walk. Okay. And if you look, querying MIBs, it basically gives you the command right here. We don't need this all, but we do need the -v2c and the community string, okay, which is what we have. And then the system would be the table. Okay, so here is where we would put the NS extend output 1. This is why this machine took me forever, because I had to do a whole bunch of research on SNMP because I don't use it. So if we come back here, you can see we are doing SNMP bulk walk, just like that command in the way that we popped up in Google, right? We tac v2c and then tac c for the community string, which we grabbed from that file, the IP address of the machine that we're querying, and then we're going to query this NS extend output 1. Now, theoretically, hopefully, knock on wood, when we hit enter, this should kind of freeze up a little bit, and we should have a shell, okay? So I'm going to hit enter, and it looks like it's frozen, so that's a good sign. Let's come to our shell, and we do have a shell. So I think what we're going to do is we are going to try and see if we can get a TTY shell now that we're on a real box here. Let's see if we can do it. Paste clipboard. So we're doing Python spawn bin bash. Okay. Now we're going to do export term equals x term. Then we're going to hit Control Z to suspend the process. Then we're going to do stty raw echo semicolon foreground copy. And we're going to type reset. All right, now, a very astute viewer of mine noticed that I was having occasional issues with TTY shells where it appeared to be overriding commands and stuff like that. He said if you set the rows and columns, that won't happen. And the way that you set the rows and columns once you have a TTY shell is you type STTY rows. We're going to do 16. Oh, I am not typing on the screen for some reason. STTY rows 16 cols 126. Now we shouldn't get that overwriting issue, which is nice because that is really a pain in the butt. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to CD to home. We'll do an ls. And there's a tom user. So CD tom, do an ls. And see if we can cat local.txt again. It's weird that they put it in two different places. Okay. Can we write in here? No, permission denied. All right, well, now that we've seen that there's a user tom and we've seen the local.txt, let's do some normal Linux enumeration. We'll do history. It's just ours, sudo tacl. We don't have the password. Okay, so then let's try and see if there's any files with the suid set. And this machine is a bit slow. Okay, I see some interesting stuff already. This log console seems interesting. So we're going to want to see if we can check that out. That is, let's see if we can do an ls AIL on that. So let's grab that, copy, ls AIL, and we'll paste that in. That's owned by Tom, and it has the suid set. So that means, in my mind, we need to get to Tom somehow. The other thing that I would encourage people to do is to search for capabilities, and that's going to be key on this machine. First, let's see if we can cat etc cron tab. Not much going on there. Now let's look for capabilities. And if you ran linps, I'm pretty sure it would find this, but this is how you do it on the command line. If you don't know what capabilities are, it's similar to the suid, but slightly different. It does allow you to run certain binaries with higher level privileges. So we're going to hit enter. And this is important right here. This blank equals EP is not normal. It's similar to the suid being set on it. So we're going to want to investigate that as well. All right, as a matter of fact, let's do an ls AIL on that and see what it comes up with. I pressed LA instead of ls. This is also owned by Tom. So that just furthers my resolve that we need to get to Tom somehow. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at that log console. So why don't we do this? Why don't we grab that log console path, copy, and let's do strings on it. Command strings is not found. Let's see, do we have ltrace? We do. So let's do ltrace. Well, first, why don't we just run the program and see what it does. So let's paste clipboard. Okay, this is interesting. Nice ASCII. So one, about the system, looks like, but probably just runs the uname a. 2 gives you all the processes. 3 users logged in. 4 routing table. 6 is CPU information, and then 7 to exit. Okay. So let's do ltrace. Ltrace is a program you can use to examine all of the libraries that are being called by a program. There's another one called strace that does like all the system calls. I think in this case what we're looking for is ltrace. I tried strace. I didn't really get a lot of information from that one, but I think ltrace will get us what we need. So if we paste clipboard, now basically we just go through the options. So if we press 1, we can see it's running right here, bin uname A. Okay, so let's run 2. If we scroll up, we can see it's running bin ps aux, right? So just to keep this video brief, the one that we're looking for is actually 6. Okay, so if we type 6, we come up here, we can see it's running ls CPU, and it's not using the full path. Okay, so I think we can abuse this by adjusting our path and putting our own ls CPU binary in place to trick the program so that when we hit the option 6, it does what we want. And I was thinking that we can, just have it execute bin bash I, which would give us a shell as Tom. So that's what we're going to do. So we need to hit 7 to exit. And the last time I ran this, I think the computer went a little crazy, so I might have to hit Control C. We'll see. Ah, no, it didn't. Okay, perfect. All right, so let's echo our path. And it searches for commands in this order, okay? So I think what we want to do is we want to export our path. Export path equals tmp : path. Okay, now let's echo our path again. And we can see what I did was I made the temp directory be the first directory in our path. So now I think we can go to the temp directory and we can just basically create our own command. So I'm just going to echo bin bash I into a file called lscpu. Copy. Paste. So echo bin bash I into lscpu. And then what we're going to do is we're going to chmod plus x lscpu. And if we do an ls ail, looks like we have an executable lscpu. So let's go grab that. I can't remember where that command is. So I'm just going to grab this. Oops. Copy. What we're going to do now is we're going to run this command again, and we're going to hit option 6, and hopefully it should give us a shell as Tom. So I'm going to paste the clipboard. I'm going to hit 6, and it does. We are now Tom at escape. Fantastic. So one of the things I thought about doing here was giving myself an SSH certificate and putting it in Tom's directory, because we really don't want to have to go through all of that again if for some reason we lost our shell. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to come back to my machine and I'm just going to do SSH keygen trsa. We want it in home, Cali. We're going to call it ID_RSA. No passphrase. And then what we're going to do is chmod plus x chmod 400 IDRSA, and then we're going to cat IDRSA pub to authorize keys, because in order to SSH to a machine, you really just need the authorized keys I usually sometimes put the public key up there as well. I don't think it's completely necessary, but I tend to do it. So let's do that, and let's cat authorize keys. All right. So now let's do a Python 3 HTTP server. Let's go back to our foothold. This one we can close. And let's go cd home not set, so we need to go to cd home tom ls. Okay, so let's make dir.ssh, cd into .ssh, and then I think we can do curl http 192.168.45.242 authorized underscore keys. Okay. Oh, I screwed that up. Authorized keys, and then we want to do an output to authorized keys. Okay, so we do an ls. Now we have authorized keys in there. So let's just test it out. Let's SSH as Tom, and I think the IP address of the machine has changed, so it's 165. We have, because I've done this machine before, we need to get rid of, I'm just going to get rid of known hosts, so I'm going to say remove known hosts. Okay, we can cd ... Now let's try and get in as Tom again. That's what happens when you use certificates and the IP address of the machine has changed. It thinks there's some trickery going on. Just get rid of that known host file in your .ssh folder and you'll be fine. Yes. And we're in as Tom. So now I think we can focus on open SSL. Okay. So I went to GTFO bins, and this is the one that I think is the most appropriate right here. You can use this to actually start a secure server and read files as root. The problem is I couldn't get this to work correctly, so I found another website that does something very similar, but it's just some slight differentiation in the syntax, and this worked fine. So what we're going to do, and all of these links will be in the description below, by the way. The first thing that we need to do is create a certificate and a key, and then we have to start a secure SSL, secure server, and then we should be able to query files on the machine. And there's several ways that we can take advantage of that. We'll test it by trying to query the shadow file, and then we'll see if we can maybe even see if root has an SSH key we can grab. Okay, so we're going to go, and we're going to need 2 sessions as Tom, okay, which we have. We need to start the server in one, and then we need to go to the other one and query the local host, just like he does right here, and try and see if we can read the shadow file. If we can read the shadow file, then we could potentially look for an SSH key if it exists. All right. So let's go to, so this is our one of our Tom instances. Let's go to the first one. And here's the command to start the, well, actually to create the certificate. And we're going to want to be in the temp folder. And then there's a key. And when I say key, I mean there's something that's really important. Otherwise, this isn't going to work. And I'll explain that when we get to it. So cd temp. And what we're going to do is we are going to basically run this OpenSSL command, which has the suite, which has capabilities, not the suite. It has capabilities, which are different. And we're just generating a new key pair and certificate. Okay. So we're going to hit enter, and you could just hit enter through all these fields. Okay. We do an lsail, You can see now we have this key.pem and we have this cert.pem. If you come back and you look, you'll notice that after he creates the certificate, you have to back out of that directory. If you do not back out of that directory and you start this server in the same directory, it will not work. Trust me. I spent an hour trying to figure out why I couldn't get it working, and it was because I didn't do this simple thing, which is to back out of that temp directory. Okay? All right. So, if we go back to our first Tom instance here, we'll clear the screen. We're in the temp directory. So now we have to back out of the temp directory. So now we are in the root directory. This is where you want to run that secure server command. And I'm going to have it listening on port 4444. So we're basically starting a secure SSL server, right? And we're using the key and the cert in the temp folder. And we're running it on port 4444, and we're enabling HTTPS. Okay, don't forget that TAC HTTPS. You're going to need that to be able to query using curl. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Okay, so if everything goes well, it should say accept. That means the website is up and running, and we can actually verify that. Or I shouldn't say website, but the web server is up and running. If we come over here and we do a secure socket or socket statistics, TULP, we can see on port 444 it's running. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to curl TAC-K, and don't forget this is HTTPS. If you do HTTP, it's not going to work. HTTPS. And we're doing localhost port 44444, and then we want to see the etc shadow file. And there it is. So now let's see if we can grab an SSH key if it's available in the root.ssh folder. So we're going to curl TAC-K HTTPS localhost 4444 root.ssh ID_RSA. We're going to hit enter. And bang, there is a private key for root. So you know what we're going to do. We're going to copy this. Copy selection. We're going to go to our home folder. I'm going to move this key over to downloads for now. And then what I'm going to do is close this, open a terminal, nano ID_RSA. We're going to paste in root's private key. Control O to save, Control X to exit, chmod 400 IDRSA, and then we're going to SSH as root, and we need to change this IP address to 165, and then we're using the IDRSA key we just grabbed and made read-only. Okay, hit enter. And it's asking for the password. Did I make a mistake? Let's see what's going on. We're going to troubleshoot this in real time here. Open with mousepad. Let's try it again. Let's move this to the trash. Open a terminal here. Nano ID_RSA. Oh, I know what we need. No, we shouldn't. Shouldn't need anything else. Let's see. What did I do wrong? I probably made a stupid error. Control C on that. copy, paste clipboard. Okay, Control O, Control X, chmod 400, IDRSA, SSH, root. It keeps changing the IP address. So it's 165. It's asking for root's password. Well, let me pause the video and I will figure out why this is not working and I'll let you know. All right, I'm back. Unfortunately, we had to reset the machine. So if that issue occurs for you, you need to reset the machine. You can clearly see I nanoed IDRSA. I copied the key in there. I made it 400 for read-only, and then I was able to successfully SSH in as root. And then here we have the flag, cat-proof.txt, and the flag. So it is what it is. Sometimes these machines are flaky. I don't know what's going on. You can see my CPU usage up here is going crazy. So the way we took advantage of this machine was we ran an mmap scan, actually two. One of them UDP, saw that 161 was open on that side, and then we saw 80 and 8080 were open on the normal side. So we went to those websites, didn't see much, ended up running GoBuster, saw dev directory on the 8080 version. It took us to a web page where we could upload GIF files. So we used Burp Suite to figure out what the site was using to sanitize those files, and it turns out it was the content type. So we changed that to image GIF, and we were able to upload PHP Monkey's reverse shell and get a reverse shell. So then we figured out we were in a Docker container, did a bunch of enumeration, ultimately found an SNMP config file, and with the hint that the host and the container were sharing the temp directory, the file told us the community string, and the fact that we could potentially execute code using the extend SNMP functionality, and the tables to use. The one we selected was nsextend output 1. So we set up that reverse shell, left it in the temp folder, went back to our machine, downloaded all the MIBs, used SNMP bulk walk to query the MIBs, and then specifically the nsextend output 1 table. Got a reverse shell as www data. Did some enumeration, saw there was a file with the suid set as tom, log console, and then also saw there was a file in the opcert directory with capabilities set. So we know we needed to get to tom because both those files were owned by tom. So we took a look at this log console command, used ltrace on it because strings wasn't available, and ltrace told us that option 6 was using the not literal path to use the ls CPU command, so the relative path. And by doing that, we are able to take advantage of that by modifying our path and placing our own command ls CPU in the temp folder. So we placed a command ls CPU in there to get a bash shell as tom. We went back into the log console command and executed option 6 and got a shell as tom. Once we were tom, we figured out that due to the fact that OpenSSL had capabilities set, we could potentially do something like create a certificate and a key and then run a secure server and then query secure files using that server. Now I went to GTFO bins, their iteration didn't work, but found another website that gave us a tutorial on how to do that. We executed that, we were able to get the etc shadow file, and then tried to find a key, SSH key in root SSH folder, and in fact we were able to. Now we did have some trouble with that key, but that was due to the machine needing to be reset. So once I reset the machine, I was able to log in as root and cat out the flag. So I hope you found this video useful. I hope you learned something. If I used any links, they'll be in the description below. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, just want to say hi, drop a comment. Would love to chat with you. I do have a Discord server. All the information is on my YouTube page. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.